A note of warning. This podcast explores graphic and disturbing stories and includes strong language. It therefore may not be suitable for our young listeners or other folks who may find it disturbing. Hello and welcome to True Crime Daily, the podcast, bringing you high-profile and under-the-radar cases from across the country every week. I'm Billy Jensen, and this is Owen Michael.
Hello.
Today's Thursday, October 3rd, 2019, and our guest this week is Stephanie Harlowe, a true crime YouTube podcaster.
Hi.
Welcome, Stephanie.
Thanks for having me.
And one of my Instagram friends.
That's
So,
true.
what got you into true crime cases, and what made you think, oh, you know what, I'm gonna start a channel?
Well, I think as far as what got me into true crime, I was going to college for psychology, and then I took a forensic psychology class, and obviously that got me really interested in that kind of stuff. I read a book called Devil in the White City about H.H. Holmes, which really got me interested into serial killers and things like that, only to find out recently that most everything that was written in that book about H.H. Holmes was exaggerated.
Yeah, that's one thing about that book, that Eric Larson book. They call that true crime. It's not true crime.
And he says at the beginning, he's like, just so you guys know,
Yeah.
this is all real.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, but it's just like
It does seem to be
it's historical fiction, is what I consider.
Yeah, there you go. But it does seem to be a gateway drug into the true crime thing. I've heard more than once.
Yeah.
People
I mean, it's a
kinda get
wonderful
into that.
book. It's
Well
it's
written.
amazing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they've been trying to make a movie on it for.
We were talking about
years.
that earlier. I actually was hoping for the movie version because I still have not cracked this book despite my Chicagoland roots. Apologies. But yeah, I hear nothing but good things about it.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because you're out here because you're visiting Spahn Ranch.
Yeah.
When I was in Chicago, I went to where the castle was, the murder castle.
Oh, the murder castle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not there. There's a post office there, but I just had to go, you know. And you know, he'd set up that castle that as a hotel, sort of apartment building / hotel, and the people that were there for the Chicago exposition would stay there, and then he'd just kill them.
But no, not really.
Right. So what were some of the discrepancies?
I think he eventually, when he got caught, he confessed to killing 27 or 28 people, but they can only pinpoint, I think, 8 or 9 people that he actually killed. And the hotel was set up more to con people, to get companies and businesses to give him things on credit, like linen and furniture. And then he built that 3rd floor with all the hidden rooms so he could hide the goods. So when they came to get it back, he was like, I don't know where this stuff is. So that's pretty much what he built the hotel for. The only people he really killed were the ones who got in the way of his scamming everybody else. So it wasn't as if he built this hotel in order to bring in people from the World's Fair and then kill them. He kind of made it. He wanted to make money.
Murders of convenience here to get away with the thing. Yeah. Although I suppose did he confess to some of these other things, sort of in a clout?
Some of the people he confessed to killing were alive.
Gotcha. So
We're
he's
not
making
sure
a name
what he
for
did
himself
that
a little
for.
bit on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I see.
So how was Spahn Ranch? Have you been there yet?
Yeah, we went there yesterday. It's so funny because I had this picture that I would just get, onto the road and then walk into the desert area, and then it would be right there. But you kind of have to, because we wanted to go to the cave. So you kind of have to hike a little bit. And the whole time I'm like, oh, there's rattlesnakes and poisonous spiders in here just waiting to bite me. And I had to crawl over trees. I'm not a hiker.
Scorpions and stuff too.
Scorpions.
Right? Yeah.
I was terrified. But then we got there, and that was very, very cool, just kind of being there.
Yeah.
Well,
did you see the is the bus still there?
I don't think so.
No. Yeah.
The cave's there.
The cave is there where they took the famous picture.
Well, so we're gonna go in depth. We're gonna cover our stories for this week, but we'll go a little bit in depth in that because I want to hear about this stuff too. Billy is a lot more knowledgeable about the entire Manson case, but this is all local, and particularly at this time with the movie out and everything else, that's good stuff. And the fact that you're out here to cover it. But as far as this week goes. Bill, you want to introduce some of our topics here?
So what are some of the cases that you've covered on the channel that you'd like to tell our viewers about?
Well, this month, all October is Halloween. I'm a huge Halloween fan. I love all things spooky. I'm the kid that used to go and hang out in cemeteries when I was young. I like to be scared. So Halloween was awesome for me because obviously it's a play on Halloween and my last name.
Yeah.
But it's all month spooky videos. So they're based on fact. They're true crime videos. They have evidence and logic to back them up. But they also have that spooky kind of twist, like the Slenderman stabbings. I just posted a video today that was about the dancing plague of 1518. So, there's some historical things in there.
What was the dancing plague?
In 1518, these people in Strasbourg, France, they just started dancing, and they did not stop. And some of them danced themselves to death. Insane.
And so it's not to be confused with St. Vitus's dancer.
Same, yeah.
It was from something in their diet, or it was something genetic?
They haven't figured it out. They think, at the end of the day, they think it was the socioeconomic status of these people, that they were so beaten down and so poor and tired of trying to find where their next meal was going to come from. They basically had no hope. And obviously they were very religious, so maybe they thought that,
like a mass hypnosis, or not a mass
like a
anxiety
mass hysteria
event or something
kind
like
of,
that.
yeah. And then more people just kept dancing and dancing until they died.
Do we know what types of dances they were?
I don't know,
They
probably.
weren't doing the dab, they weren't doing the nay-nay, calling it that then.
All right.
Still a variation on it. You walked right into that one.
All right, so definitely check out Stephanie's channel and experience Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Looking forward to that. That's on Stephanie Harlowe's YouTube channel.
So this week, we have a Texas man kills a burglar, goes back to bed, and is charged with murder. A 15-year-old boy is killed while protecting his little sister during a home invasion. And a car break-in leads police to discover the owner is a disbarred lawyer on the run for killing his mother last year. But first, you may have heard of the big verdict this week with former Dallas police officer Amber Geiger convicted of murder and sentenced to 10 years in prison. That's it. For fatally shooting her upstairs neighbor, Botham Jean, in what she claimed was a case of mistaken location.
Geiger, if you're not familiar with the case, she was a Dallas police officer who had just gotten off of a 13-hour shift in Dallas. She went to her apartment complex. She claims she parked accidentally on the 4th floor instead of the 3rd floor and walked to where her apartment was, except it was Botham John's apartment. She walked through the unlocked door while she was on the phone. The resident who was sitting inside, Botham Jean, he was sitting on his couch eating ice cream. He stood up and approached the hallway as a strange person walked into his house, and she shot him and killed him. She shot him twice. Actually, she fired twice and hit him in the chest once. That basically killed him. She was doing CPR and stuff, but she had... police arrived and basically it was too late. There's a lot of reaction across the country this week. A lot of people saying she didn't get enough. Some people saying she got too much. Obviously every time we have police shootings, especially when there's race involved, it's a big story. And this one, there's off-duty, et cetera, and so forth. The big one that I read a lot about this week is the castle doctrine. It was the fact that she was using the stand your ground in your own defense, in your own home defense, because she believed it was her own house. She was trying to claim that she was justified in shooting this person, even though it wasn't her house. That was the defense that they were trying to go for. So in that light, we have a couple of other cases this week, sort of domicile-related, stand your ground, defending your own self-defense type cases.
Yeah.
So,
did you
who
cover
doesn't
this case?
ask? Yeah, I haven't covered it yet, but I've been following it. Who doesn't ask when you walk into your house and see somebody sitting on your couch eating ice cream, who are you?
Yeah.
Before shooting, right? Is that not a strange thing?
No, there was a lot. I mean, that's who can say in the heat of a moment, obviously, and law enforcement probably have different. I don't want to say triggers.
What scares them?
Certainly not.
Or how they're going to react.
Yeah. It's certainly not shoot first, though.
No, you would think.
Right.
And that was basically the crux of it. I don't think the jury bought it because they were saying she was on the phone with a coworker who she may have been having an on again, off again romantic relationship. She wasn't paying attention, and so her first reaction was to shoot. But they also said, like the welcome mat outside the front door was bright red versus the one from hers downstairs. So there was all sorts of indications. Especially the door was unlocked. Why would your own door be unlocked? I mean, I'm not putting that thought in. If she thought somebody had broken into her house.
There were plenty of triggers that would say, I'm not in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
There were enough of those. And if she hadn't had a gun, this probably would have been taken care of pretty quickly if she was just coming home with groceries and be like, I'm so sorry, I'm in the wrong apartment.
Didn't she notice it wasn't her furniture or her?
Right.
I mean, I've gotten into the wrong car before, admittedly. But opened the car door, sat in, and then you're like, oh, this isn't my car. But to walk into what you believe to be your own house and not say, that's not my painting on the wall or my couch isn't red, to not have those things pop into your head, it just seems incredibly suspicious.
Right. And so obviously a lot of people feel the same way, and the jury agrees too. And then there was some sentiment out there saying, well, the prosecution asked for 28 years for her to go to jail for 28 years. She got 10 years, so the jury gave her 10 years. It was the jury decision. So that's all up in the air. But I also saw a lot of people shocked that she actually was convicted because, there's some people that still, you have these high-profile cases, and sometimes justice doesn't go the way you think it's going to go. So,
well, in another stand your ground case, this one wasn't stand your ground. She just used that as a defense. But in this one, James Michael Meyer, 72 years old, was sleeping at home last Thursday when he was awakened by activity in the backyard of his Dallas house. He saw a man trying to break into a shed on his property with a pickaxe sometime around 5 a.m. Meyer grabbed a handgun, went outside, and said he yelled at the person to stop and warned them not to come closer. He said that the person started walking towards him, so he shot the person. And Meyer said the suspect dropped the pickaxe and ran off. And he said he fired an extra round in the person's general direction. Then Meyer went back inside and back to bed.
Which, so again, this is in Dallas, same city, and this is Texas. So most people are going to say, if there's one state that stand your ground and, don't mess around if you're a burglar, it's Texas. People are packing. There's thousands of cases out there of this type of thing. But here's the twist.
Yeah. Meyer says he saw a black bag in the park behind his house. He went outside to investigate, and he saw it was actually a person lying face down in the park.
It was about 2 hours after he woke up.
And that was 2 hours after he woke up. And the Dallas Morning News reports that Meyer's wife then called an attorney before James Meyer called 911 to report the incident. And investigating officers found a man lying face down in the park behind Meyer's house with a gunshot wound and dried blood on him. And here's the other thing. He had been shot in the back of the neck. According to KTVT, he was pronounced dead at the scene. James Meyer was then arrested and charged with murder. He told police he'd thrown away the shell casings from the bullets he'd fired. Dallas Morning News reports that neighbors told cops they heard 3 gunshots fired at about 5:15 a.m., and he was held on $150,000 bond.
What do you think about that, Stephanie?
Well, it's kind of crazy because, like you said, when I saw it went down in Dallas, I'm like, okay, Texas, they're pretty, pro-gun. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think on September 1st, they just put in a new law where after a natural disaster or something like that, you can carry a gun with you for a week after that, even if you don't have a license for it. You can just carry it, concealed or
they
not.
Felt so strongly about it, they had to make a law.
Yeah.
Wow,
so definitely, I was surprised that he even got arrested. Obviously, it looked suspicious because he called his lawyer before he called the police, because he went back to bed and 2 hours later saw the person was in his yard, that the person was shot in the back and laying on his, face down instead of in the front. Like he said, he was approaching him and then he shot him. You would think he'd be shot in the front. And he threw away the shells. And at first I said, well, if I shot someone and didn't mean to kill them and then found out they were dead, I would probably call my lawyer before calling the police, just because I want to know what I'm in for.
That doesn't indicate any guilt, exactly.
Right. And maybe would I throw the shells away? No, probably not. But at the same time, he says the guy was trying to get into his shed with the pickaxe, so he yelled at him and said, hey, get out of here. And instead of running away, the guy comes towards him with the pickaxe.
So he says.
And then he shot at him. He didn't say he shot him. He said he shot at him.
Right.
Guy drops the pickaxe, runs away. And so he then shoots another shot, which is allegedly his second shot, into the darkness after this man running away. And then the neighbor obviously said that they heard 3 shots. So he obviously shot him more than once, and he probably knew he hit him before he went to bed. I have to believe that.
My immediate thought is, hey, this is a 72-year-old guy. It's possible that he's basically was feeling threatened, shoots another thing, and goes back to bed. Crotchety old man, get off my lawn, and goes to bed. Wakes up later. All of this is plausible to me, except that why would you throw away the shell casings? And in fact, if you just threw your shell casings away before the cops showed up, they should still be in the garbage can. And the fact that they still have not found these shell casings seems to me that you actually concealed those. So what were you hiding there? Other than that, the extra third shot, I suppose, if you're half asleep at 5 o'clock in the morning and you're not sure, or maybe those people got it wrong and they heard an echo or whatever, none of those things seems to be a thing except the shell casings themselves. It brings up a big red flag. Like, I would have almost thought myself, like, dude, you gave the guy warning. The guy was threatening you. You were well within your rights to start firing. It sounds like if it went down the way he said it was, that when this person was running away and Meyer randomly shot off in the dark, maybe that's the one that struck him in the back of the neck. We only have his word, though, as far as like, I told him to stop and he came walking up on him. There's no witnesses. It's his word against the Stead guys. So there may be other details here that the cops haven't quite released or whatever the case is, but
And we'll be following this case.
I don't think you're supposed to technically shoot somebody if they're running away, though. I think that was the big issue. Yeah. If they continue to rob you in Texas, you can say, okay, now I'm going to shoot you because you're continuing to rob me, but now you're running away and you're no longer a threat and you're not robbing me any longer. Why are you shooting a shot after him? It's kind of suspicious. Yeah.
Like I say, we will. I'm sure that we'll be hearing more about the story, and you can certainly go to truecrimedaily.com to get the next update as soon as we have that.
We go from Texas to Florida. In Florida, another fatal burglary case is making headlines this week. Last Thursday, Charlotte County Sheriff's deputies in Port Charlotte, Florida, which is about 2 hours south of Tampa, responded to reports of a shirtless man covered in blood carrying a knife walking down a street. Several burglaries were reported in the neighborhood at the same time, and deputies responding to the most recent burglary chased 27-year-old Ryan Cole, apparently on foot. Miami Herald reports that Cole was found in a neighbor's backyard. He had several stab wounds on his hands and body and was wearing a child's boxing glove he allegedly took from the last house. Deputies following up on the other reported burglaries found one house with its door open. Inside, they found a little girl unharmed and the body of a teenager. And sheriff's officials say that 15-year-old Kyler Edmond had been home with his 5-year-old sister when Ryan Cole allegedly broke in about 4:30 p.m. Officials say Kyler was defending his sister when he was attacked, and he died from his injuries from the attack. No further details were given, other than to say that this teen is a hero for defending his sister, and the girl was not hurt. Cole was on probation, has a history of drug abuse, and has been arrested more than 20 times, according to the Washington Post. He's been charged with burglary, but has not yet been charged with anything in relation to Edmund's death yet. Charlotte County Sheriff's Office and the Florida State Attorney's Office are expected to file further charges. Sad story. Teen is a hero.
Every parent's worst nightmare. It's 4:30 in the afternoon. It's after school. Your 15-year-old kid is taking care of the little girl, but you've got literally a madman stalking the streets here, doing the stuff. Apparently, he broke into several of these. The last guy that called the cop said that he stole this boxing glove from the kid, and that it's unclear how the stab wounds happened, but if he was in some sort of altercation with this teenage kid, who knows? The guy he has cuts on his arms and he had cuts on his torso, and I believe Kyler was stabbed in the torso multiple times. Yeah. So the kid gave him a good fight. Apparently, it's tragic, but it's one of those. It's another one of those domicile types of things. It's Florida. It's another state that's pro-gun. You might be able to make the argument that maybe they should have had a gun nearby for the 15-year-old to use. I don't know. I don't want to get into that particular argument, but it does seem like the parents' worst nightmare.
Yeah.
And as the parents, they've got to feel, obviously he's sad that they lost him, but so proud of him for, coming forward and defending his little sister.
And his little sister.
Yeah.
What she experienced, too.
He's a 10th grade kid. I didn't put the photo up, but he's a 15-year-old kid, and he's in 10th grade, but he's still kind of, similar. He looks like a little bit of a late bloomer. He's kind of a little bit of on the younger side of looking 15.
Yeah.
He's just a brave-ass kid. I mean, I'm pretty proud of this kid, but it's the worst thing. And then this guy's got a history of drugs, and he's got probation and all the rest. It's definitely begs the question how he got out.
Going to Nashville, Tennessee now, in a somewhat more positive story in the sense that a killer is, or a alleged killer is off the streets. A disbarred former attorney accused of murdering his mother in Georgia, then going on the run for months, was captured this week after a car break-in led police to investigate the fugitive's vehicle. Richard Merritt is accused of killing his mom in Cobb County, Georgia in February, and he was convicted of stealing money from his legal clients, 30 counts of theft, forgery, and elder exploitation, and he was reportedly settling cases without telling clients and keeping the money. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison and was ordered to surrender to authorities on February 1st. Instead, U.S. Marshals say he cut off his ankle monitor and fled. On February 2nd, Richard Merritt's mother was found violently murdered at her home where Richard had been staying. Oh, I remember this kid. You know what? Somebody came up to me on my tour, and their parents were one of the ones that were swindled by him.
They get scammed?
Yeah. Her car was missing, and Merritt's own vehicle was found at the scene. Marshals issued an alert for the car, 2009 silver Lexus SUV, and Merritt was considered an armed and dangerous fugitive. Now, last Thursday, WKRN reports some juveniles tried to break into different cars, including a 2009 silver Lexus SUV parked in West Nashville near Vanderbilt University, not far from Music Row. Investigators discovered the vehicle had a stolen license plate on it, and that led to a stakeout. On Monday at about 4 p.m., marshals tackled Richard Merritt at the register of a thrift store in Nashville and arrested him. And the thrift store is in the same neighborhood as where the car was found and near where Merritt last worked as a bartender. The owner of the bar he had been working at said Merritt was fired on September 10th. He was apparently rude to customers and bad for business, the owner told WKRN. He had grown his hair out and his beard out, as you can see. He does look different,
actually.
Yeah. And got a fake ID, and he was calling himself Mick Malveau.
I love that it's Mick Malveau, and I was trying to rack my brain, like, is that a WWE character? Like, where I cannot figure out where I've heard that, but Mick Malveau just sounds like an alias out of a Disney movie or something like that. But he went with it.
Super fancy.
Yes, he went. There's an X on the end of it. So
I'm
he
Mick
went
Malveau, and of course he's from Louisiana.
Right, exactly. Right. He's from New Orleans, exactly.
I'm from New Orleans. My name is Mick Malveau.
I do declare.
I do declare, Mr. Beauregard. All right. He also had made a name for himself around Nashville as a rude person who was aggressive towards women. Geez, WKRN reports, and had been 86'd from at least 2 area bars. Now, for anybody that was born in 1960 and up
of a person of
88 to 86.
Age.
86 means I love that you wrote this in. 86 means to get thrown out.
You've been thrown out. You've been 86.
I thought it was a restaurant term. Isn't it a restaurant
It is a
term?
restaurant term.
Well, it came
or
from
bars.
It came from
When you're out of
there's a bar.
food.
There's a bar. No, well, it's a bar called Chumley's, and I believe that's what it was called. And it was a speakeasy, and they would say 86 when they knew that there was a raid. So the 86 was where it was the address of the door that they would leave, because so the cops would go in the front and they would go out the 86 entrance.
So I've read several versions of that story. Do you have that on good authority? Or are we
I have it on pretty good authority.
Are we doing the myth
the
there?
bar likes to tell the story.
It makes sense. It definitely
Well,
makes sense. But
that's a good source.
it's I've worked in restaurants and bars,
and I know bars
for a long time, and 86 is definitely still a term in use behind the line. But anyway, yeah,
86 mashed potatoes.
more. It's definitely about people. It's definitely about we're 86ing this person or this table because it's definitely a bad behavior type of a thing. But I didn't realize I slipped in an old term of art in the service.
Were you reading Hammett or Philip Marlowe?
Yeah, we were doing some hard-boiled writing here. But you'd think this guy would kind of keep a little lower profile, but I guess if it's in your nature to be a jerk, you can't really hide that.
Yeah,
you change your identity. But
The police said he was smarter than the average criminal. That's how they referred to him, smarter than the average criminal. Which blows my. He's driving his mother's car still.
That was the stupidest thing. It seems to me, like, you've gone to all this trouble, get rid of the vehicle. Like, just a bad license plate is not bad.
Or
just
take
ditch
a bus.
Ditch
I don't
it, man.
know.
You should have ditched it and whatever. But the fact is that one of the intelligent thing that they said, which is how they catch a lot of fugitives, he had completely 86th his family and friends. He had completely cut off all contact with
he
them.
wasn't talking
And that's
to
how they always get you, especially these days with basically wire stuff, with tracking your phones and IP address and things like that. But even phone calls or whatever else, that's usually how they get you in a fugitive case. This guy didn't, although it seems it's unclear who he had to talk to. He killed his mom. I mean, here you've got a guy who basically was going to do 15 years for fraud and theft and stuff. You know, you go on the run. I get that, but why did you kill your mom?
You kill your mom.
Really
Why would you kill your
violently
mom?
too, and
Yeah.
she was the only one who was standing by him.
He was staying with
supporting
her.
him. She
Exactly.
went to his trial every day. He was staying with her. She made him his favorite meal the day he was supposed to surrender himself. So when his brother found the mother dead in the house, he said that the table was set, the garlic bread was there.
I didn't
She
know
had made
these
him
details.
pasta.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, that she had made him his favorite meal on the night he was going to surrender. So obviously this was a good woman, you know, that cared about him when really everybody else was over him. Why kill her and why so violently?
I mean, I'm sure we'll find out some more. Yeah, you're right. I wonder whether it was a heat of the moment thing, like, Mom, I don't want to go to jail tomorrow. Stop making me, and get in a fight and
No, I
that
think
kind of
he
thing. Or
planned
if it
it.
was strictly like,
He had a false
here's how I'm
ID.
going to do this. I'm gonna take her car. Why would you kill her? We'll find out. But one of the bartenders in one of the restaurants that he had been thrown out of, 86th from, quoted by WKRN TV, quotes, "We all knew that he was at the very least a sociopath of some sort, but definitely not the extent of it."
That's my favorite.
Which, you know, it also kind of begs the question of when if you're thinking about who's serving you in certain restaurants and bars, especially bars. I have worked with some unsavory bartenders before, not so much. Maybe a couple of criminals that were waiters, but definitely bartenders with less than savory pasts. So, you know. Yeah, on the other hand, if you're in Nashville and you're kind of looking for old Nashville, kind of honky tonk, kind of a rougher edge to it, you know, maybe a convicted murder or a wanted murder on the thing is kind of plays right into the whole.
He has a
thing.
sinister name though, Mick Malvo.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
And there's two types of people after something happens. There's the type of people that are like, we never thought he could do anything
Right.
like this. I can't. And then there's people who are like, we always knew he was a sociopath right from the beginning.
Make your own attorney jokes as you will, commenters, because some people feel that way about lawyers.
Yep. Well, you know what? We get comments on our Facebook page, on our YouTube page.
I've read a few. It's true.
And, you know, we've got the largest true crime Facebook page in the world. And people like to make some comments. So
We're going to James Meyer. We're going back to Texas.
So remember that story that we told you about at the top of the show? Memo L said, I would be pissed also if someone entered my place trying to steal while I'm asleep. I would have done the same. He wasn't actually in the place. He was in the backyard.
You woke him up.
Yeah.
He had a pickaxe though, so that's scary.
Pickaxe didn't even woke him up. I mean, I'm not a 72-year-old man yet, but boy, you know, Billy knows me well enough.
3 years.
I'm a crotchety old man already. I totally get this, which is why that next comment, did I miss the part where this was going? Where this was wrong? Isn't this the case of castle doctrine they tried to use with Amber Geiger? This is what we brought up earlier. And
thank you, Antoinette B, because you're paying attention.
Yes.
To you know, you're learning everything about it. So Jonathan L said he had a big day planned and he needed his rest. So
don't do it.
Don't do what?
Don't shoot people on your property.
Yeah.
That's all.
Then there was this story. Teens busted with nearly $70,000 in meth at a Border Patrol checkpoint. Authorities placed the car in a hydraulic lift and found 48 plastic-wrapped bundles of crystal meth in a compartment installed above the gas tank. The women, who are both 19-year-old U.S. citizens, were arrested. Just watching a little bit too much Breaking Bad. Tempe L said, let's find who financed this escapade. Moises P said, they won't do no time. They're about to snitch on everybody, which you know, that's going to be something.
I don't think that's a good idea to snitch in this particular. I'm not giving any legal advice whatsoever, but seems like a bad choice. And
Just do your time.
And Tara A said, they're going to be in jail for a long time. Definitely not worth it.
I mean, 19 years old, and that's a lot of drugs. If you're thrill seeking or whatever, or somebody offers you a lot of money to do a thing, it's you do some
is a lot.
do some dumb things when you're 19. I have no place to judge here. I did a lot of dumb things when I was 19, and thankfully I didn't live in California. I didn't have anybody to offer me such a epic escapade as this. So I can't pass judgment on this.
Would you have taken it? Would you have gone for it if somebody offered it to you?
I mean, luckily back in 1978 when I was 19, the crystal meth hadn't been invented yet, and
luckily,
smuggling was
Yeah.
a lot easier. You could just drive across the border in Arizona.
Well, but mainly, I mean, listen, 78, he's older than that. During Prohibition, when you were there, that was
Well, it
that
was
was
still
where, like,
legal then.
and nobody was drinking, and you would have a little nip here and there, and that was
Bathtubs galore.
yes. And then in our final story, clueless actress arrested in Florida on domestic battery charge. Stacey Dash was taken into custody in Florida after an argument with a male. She is accused of pushing and slapping him. You might remember Stacey Dash, of course, from Clueless. She was also in, I believe, a Damon Wayans movie that I saw in the theaters. Clueless, if you want to, since you're viewing locations, there's a lot of locations around here. We are in the Valley as we do this right now.
Indeed.
Circus Liquors, if you remember, that's where
Yeah.
she
The
got
clown.
her.
That's
she
right.
got robbed.
It's right
yeah,
up the
she was
street.
in the parking lot when she was waiting for her brother to pick her up. Her brother that she was, dating.
Yeah.
Right.
Spoiler alert. Hello.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's
sorry if you guys haven't seen it
1996.
from the
But,
90s.
it's,
Maybe.
But that
it's
Circus
being
Liquors is
rediscovered
still
again.
there.
That's
yeah.
cool.
Creepy clown and everything.
Erica G went straight to it and said, "How is she in her 50s? She can't tell. She's still beautiful."
That's true.
Brandy M said, "If I've learned one thing from the media, stay away from Florida."
Ouch.
Apologies to Florida.
And
We love you.
that is not us, exactly. And Sharia K said she played in the perfect movie because she is so clueless.
Burn.
Savage.
Savage.
Boom.
Oh.
Man.
Do you get a lot of comments on that YouTube page of yours?
Yes.
And what are people? See, the thing about YouTube is you can be anonymous as opposed to Facebook.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
So-
I mean, my community for the most part is about 99% positive.
Have
They're
you had
awesome.
to have you had to groom in the beginning? Basically, get rid of the bad commenters.
I don't do it anymore.
It is exhausting.
I used to go through it, and now if I see anything that just seems like they're trolling, I'm like, next one, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Well,
Don't feed the trolls.
No.
In this particular, just to revisit Stacey real quick here again. Apparently, there were reports unconfirmed, but it was her husband, and she also, while the cops were arresting her, they were making small talk with her, and one cop allegedly said something to the effect, "You look familiar. I feel like I've seen you on TV," and she proceeded to inform him that she had been on a movie called Clueless that he may have seen and had been on some other TV stuff, and she also identified herself as a political pundit on a
right.
certain news channel. So she's
like,
got
"Don't you know
fan
who I
comment.
am?"
Don't you know who I am?
As
Yeah.
if.
It was quite. It was kind of like a little bit of edging into that. So, and it's Florida. She's not in LA anymore, so you never know who you're going to deal with there.
All right, well, that's our show for the week. Thank you, Stephanie Harlowe. Member, go to her channel. The link is at the bottom of
right.
the page. If you're watching
And
this.
Halloween is coming up.
Halloween.
We're having a big Halloween party over there.
All right.
Got some great cases.
And where can viewers follow you on the Instagram and?
I'm on Instagram, it's just Stephanie Harlowe, Twitter, Steph_Harlowe, YouTube, and that's pretty much. I mean, I can't do that much social media. I got kids. You know what I mean? That's a lot of work.
I have Snapchat because I have kids.
Yeah.
So, like, my
Keep an
daughter
eye on
sent me
that
stuff on
that way.
Yeah, I'm not really keeping an eye on them. It's just like that's how
No,
she
we have
wants to
Instagram
communicate.
stories now. We don't need Snapchat
That's
anymore.
exactly. I know.
That's exactly how I feel.
Spoken like an old people.
So
No, people who use Snapchat are old now.
yeah.
I can't keep it straight. I just,
We're
Twitter
all on
bust.
TikTok now. So
Right,
you can
that's
find
right.
our content
False.
on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, and on YouTube, and get updates and subscribe to our newsletter at truecrimedaily.com. And we're going to also have a bonus episode.
Do a little
When
web
we're gonna
extra
drop
action
this,
here.
a little extra.
Yeah.
Talking a little Manson. So until next week, this is True Crime Daily, the podcast, reminding you.
Don't do crimes.